Training camp on Saturday just finished for the San Francisco 49ers, and we are back with another live stream. Be sure to check out all the information from Trey Lance, from the corners, and from everybody right after this.
Let's go get him. Let's go get him today, man. Let's go. Hey, dominate on three. 1, 2, 3. Dominate.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in. Welcome back to another live stream. The 49ers just finished day 4 of training camp. The first week of training camp is now officially over, and I am here to recap everything that happened on day 4, the positives, what needs improvement, and what to look forward to when Pats come on Monday. I'm going to do this session similar to how I did my last live stream, go over every single 11 on 11 play-by-play, and then I'm going to take questions from everybody while breaking down the position groups and talking about who went and who played well. So, guys, throughout the first 15-ish minutes while I go through the play-by-play, be sure to drop all of your questions in the chat, and I will get to every single one of them at some point during this live stream. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be at training camp for every single day, and I'm going to be doing these live streams every single day after training camp finishes. And be sure to follow me on Twitter. That's where you see the live action. I'm pretty much tweeting right as the plays happen and giving you guys the information straight up. So follow me on Twitter at Rohan Chakravarthi. But let's start with the play-by-play. And real quick, gotta say, shout out to my guys, Bay Area Baller. Thank you for tuning in. And Amin the Dream. How are my fingers feeling after all those tweets? Fatigued. I've got finger fatigue. I know the quarterback that we have right now doesn't have arm fatigue. He's thrown for 4 days in a row, but I've got finger fatigue after how many ever tweets I've tweeted out over the last couple of days. That's why we're doing live streams instead of tweeting. But we got to start with the 11 on 11 action. The 49ers have been practicing with 2 different scrimmage sessions every single day. They do the first scrimmage session probably at around 11:15 every single day, have a little break, and then go with the second scrimmage session. I'm going to give you guys the play-by-play of the scrimmages, how it went, and really give you context for these plays. Because when you hear that Trey Lance went 8 for 15, you're like, wow, really? Was it that bad? And then when you hear that Nate Sudfeld went 7 for 13, you're like, is that better than expected? And so to me, I'm going to give you guys the context behind everything during this 11 on 11 breakdown, and also go ahead and talk about all the different position groups. So like I said, be sure to drop all the questions, and I will get to them once I finish the 11 on 11 breakdowns. But let's get started. So the first play of 11 on 11s, Trey Lance, he started off the action pretty nice, hit Juwan Jennings on a 15-yard slant coming from the left sideline going in. It was a nice throw by Lance. He was facing pressure. Javon Kinlaw was out there today. He did actually participate in the scrimmage for the first time today, and Javon Kinlaw got a pressure on the first play of scrimmage. He was pass rushing. He got a pressure on Aaron Banks. He pushed him back. Trey Lance threw the ball quickly, got a 15-yard slant to Juwan Jennings. So great start to practice by Kinlaw, but also great start by Lance for Saturday's session. The second play, the 49ers have started to implement this new play. It's a jet sweep. Ray McLeod was first seen in the action, got a 2 to 3 yard gain on a jet sweep. You're going to hear that a little later as well. Then Nate Sudfeld came in. He first hit Tyler Kroft for 4 yards in the flat. Sudfeld, you'll see a little bit of a change in Sudfeld as these throws goes along in terms of the amount of yardage, more specifically the amount of air yardage on these throws. But Sudfeld hit for 4 yards in the flat. Then on the fourth throw of the day, by the way, guys, if you guys are new to the channel, I just go through the throws. I don't go through the runs. There are a bunch of runs. At least in the first practice, there were a bunch of runs. I will talk about the running backs and talk about the offensive line a little later. I'm just going through every single throw that happened. So on the fourth throw of the day, it was Brock Purdy. He had his first action of the day, missed Juwan Jennings low. It was coming off a play action pass, I believe, with Tyree and Davis Price. Purdy came out, Jennings was open, and Purdy threw it at his feet, an incompletion there. The fifth play was another jet sweep. This time it was Danny Gray getting in on the action, got there for a 4-yard gain. Marcelino McCrary Ball, the linebacker, met him after 4 yards on the sideline. Actually ran pretty well with the linebacker, with the receiver. You're going to hear a lot of Marcelino McCrary Ball today. On the sixth play, the ones came back in. Trey Lance was there, and this was a great call by D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans sent a linebacker blitz off the edge. Azeez Al-Shire went untouched, got straight to the backfield, forcing a throw immediately from Trey Lance, who threw an incompletion through the flat to Kyle Juszczyk off the fingertips of Juszczyk, just out of his reach. But really, not much Lance could do there. It was just a great defensive play call, and Al-Shire got there immediately because it was a play action play as well. The seventh play of the game, seventh throw of the day, Nate Sudfeld, his first interception of the day, tried to air it out. Ray McLeod had Travarius Ward. He was just a step ahead of Travarius Ward, but Nate Sudfeld underthrew Ray McLeod on a 45-yard bomb. It got intercepted. Ward made a great play on the ball. Interception number 1 for Nate Sudfeld. You're going to be hearing a lot more of Nate Sudfeld and interception over the course of today. On the eighth throw of the day, Lance hit Elijah Mitchell on a 4-yarder in the flat, and this was a good play, not necessarily because of the throw, but actually because of the offensive line. Aaron Banks was matched up against Nick Bosa on this play, and Aaron Banks actually held Nick Bosa didn't hold him, but he actually held his ground against Nick Bosa. A good rep there by the second-year left guard going against one of the premier pass rushers who did give some offensive linemen some work today. But overall, Lance 4-yarder to Mitchell in the flat. On the ninth throw of the day, Lance incompletion to Brandon Ayuk. Ambry Thomas was in coverage, and Lance just missed Ayuk, a little overthrown on the play as Ayuk was breaking out. It was a good route run by Ayuk, just a little bit of a miss by Lance. On the 10th throw of the day, Lance rebounded, hit George Kittle, a bullet right over the middle, but as Kittle turned around, he met Fred Warner, and it's essentially a drop. He just couldn't hold on to the ball, and Fred Warner knocked it out. So a PBU by Warner, drop by Kittle, but it was a good throw by Lance right across the middle, a 10-yarder to Kittle, incompletion though. 11th play of the first scrimmage, Nate Sudfeld back in the action, and he threw an interception here. This was probably the worst throw of the day, I'll be honest. Nate Sudfeld was eyeing Brandon Ayuk coming off the left. Brandon Ayuk was the receiver on the outside of the left side. Brandon Ayuk ran a bit of a post route, being covered by George Odom, who picked him up as the safety. And then Nate Sudfeld just eyed Brandon Ayuk the entire way coming out of his break. Ayuk went in there, and Ayuk was there, but Odom was there first because he was looking at Sudfeld's eyes, got to Ayuk, and batted the ball in the air. Tarvarius Moore made the interception. So great play there by the second team safeties. Poor throw by Nate Sudfeld, who immediately just telegraphed the pass the entire way. On the 12th throw of the first scrimmage, Nate Sudfeld hit a 10-yard pass to Brandon Ayuk. Then came in Brock Purdy. He hit Troy Fumagalli twice, once in the flat for a 7 to 10-yard gain, and then another 5-yard pass. On the second one, Quantrez Knight did record a sack on the play. It was a cornerback blitz, another good play by D'Amico Ryans, and it was a sack, although the play obviously continued because pads aren't on. 5-yard throw to Fumagalli. On the 15th play, Kevin Givens got in the action, recorded a sack on right guard Spencer Burford, who got worked on that play. Pretty nice play there by Kevin Givens. He got a sack on Burford. Defensive line, it was good. It was the better group, obviously, of the day, but the offensive line was much improved today. I thought the offensive line, especially the starting offensive line, was had a bit of a better run than they've had in any of the other days. On the 16th play, Lance avoided a sack, but there was amazing coverage everywhere on Ayuk, on Malik Turner, and so Lance got a 5-yard run out of the play. On the 17th play, Lance hit Ray McLeod on an 18-yarder. It was a nice play. Thomas was in soft coverage, and Lance made a nice throw because O'Menahue had an initial pressure on left tackle Jalen Moore. So Lance stepped up, made a nice 18-yard throw to Ray McLeod. On the 18th play, Nate Sudfeld threw an incompletion to Brandon Ayuk. He kind of overthrew him on the right sideline. It was off Ayuk's fingertips. Deommodore Lenoir was in coverage. On the 19th play, Nate Sudfeld overthrew Jawan Jennings on a 20-yarder. Robert Nikomdiche recorded a sack on the play. He obliterated Jason Poe just off the jump, immediately got in the backfield. It was a sack, and then Sudfeld overthrew Jawan Jennings for a 20-yard pass. On the 20th and final play of the first scrimmage, Nate Sudfeld threw an incompletion to Tyrion Davis-Price, a 22-yarder on the right sideline. Amazing coverage by Marcelino McCrary Ball. He was step in step, and the ball ended up becoming incomplete. So overall, I know what you guys want to hear. What were the initial stats? So after the first session, Lance was 3 of 6. Sudfeld was 2 of 7 with 2 interceptions, and Purdy was 2 of 3. Now I'll get through the second scrimmage, and I'll go quick. This was the better one. Lance started off really getting sacked twice. The first sack was on a rollout. Nick Bosa caught up with Lance as Lance slowed down to try and make a pass. So Bosa got the sack there, 10-yarder to Jawan Jennings. Then on the next play, Nick Bosa got a sack on McGlinchey. Lance continued the play through a completion. So 2 for 2 to start the second practice for Trey Lance, but Bosa did get 2 sacks to start as well. Then on the third play, Lance completed a 27-yard pass to George Kittle over the middle. Tarvarius Moore was in coverage. Great throw by Lance. On the fourth play, Nate Sudfeld came in, hit Brandon Ayuk for a 17-yard pass, then followed it up with a 7-yard throw to Trey Sermon, like a check down type of throw. Sermon got 10 yards after the catch. Brock Purdy came in after that, 25-yarder to Jordan Matthews. And one thing I'm noticing with Brock Purdy, he's got good pocket presence. That's something that's interesting. He had good pocket presence, but Brock Purdy did struggle with his arm strength. The ball, when it's traveling in the air 20, 25 yards, it takes a while to get there. Jordan Matthews was wide open for 25 yards, but the Brock Purdy pass probably took 3 to 4 seconds in the air, and Leon O'Neal, probably 10 yards back, had rushed in and was at least able to contest it in a way for Jordan Matthews, who made a good catch. Brock Purdy, that arm strength is the reason why he won't be on the roster in 2022. He'll be a practice squad quarterback for sure. After that, Brock Purdy threw a 13-yard out route to Ray McLeod, but once again, the ball took a little bit to get there. It's a bit of a weaker ball coming from Brock Purdy. On the next throw, Trey Lance threw the best throw of the day. This was by far Lance's best throw of the entire training camp period, a 50-yard bomb to Brandon Ayuk on the right sideline, being heavily covered by Charvarius Ward, who was one step behind him, and then Jimmy Ward coming from over the top. Ayuk made a diving catch on the sideline, 50-yard play. Great coverage by both Wards, but an amazing throw and amazing catch by Trey Lance. By far, like I said, his best of training camp so far. Then came an incompletion from Lance. Up to that point, Lance had thrown 5 completions in a row. He was on fire during that portion. Stemming from the first session to this session, he threw 5 completions in a row. Great start to the second session by Lance. But then Lance threw an incompletion to Ray McLeod on a 13-yard pass. Emmanuel Mosley was in coverage. Good coverage by Mosley. Then came Sudfeld. Sudfeld was trying to hit Danny Gray deep on the left sideline. Deommodore Lenoir was in coverage. Lenoir was step in step with Danny Gray. It was great coverage. And then the ball was also underthrown. Tarvarius Moore was able to run over. It was a double coverage. It was a poor throw by Sudfeld, poor decision because of the double coverage. Tarvarius Moore was able to make a good play on the ball. Interception by Nate Sudfeld. However, on the other side of the field, Ambry Thomas did struggle a bit. The 49ers did let him in the second part of the scrimmage, rather than playing soft as they have. The 49ers let Ambry Thomas play press man corner. He struggled at first, held Malik Turner on this play. It was a holding penalty. On the 11th play, Nate Sudfeld was looking for Danny Gray again. Met up with Ambry Thomas on the right sideline. Thomas had an amazing rep, his best rep of the day. was step in step with Danny Gray, was not physical, and so that was a good thing by Ambry Thomas. Nate Sudfeld was forced to run in that play. Then Lance came back in, hit a nice 25-yard pass to Brandon Ayuk before throwing an incompletion to Jeff Wilson Jr. This was the second drop of the day. It was a throw to the flat. Jeff Wilson Jr. bobbled it, and then Jimmy Ward came in and unleashed the bomb on him. Incompletion there, but not Lance's fault. Good throw. Then Nate Sudfeld came back in. He hit Tyler Kroft for a 13-yard pass. Kimoko Toure recorded a pressure on the play on George Kittle, then hit Kroft again on a 5-yard out route. A nice little kind of check down type of throw. A good route run by Tyler Kroft. Then he hit Jeff Wilson Jr. on an 8-yard route across the middle. Brock Purdy came in. He threw an incompletion to JaMycal Hasty. It was a 6-yard pass. Blitz was there, I believe, by Talanoa Hufanga. Or, no, sorry, not Talanoa Hufanga. Taylor Hawkins blitzed on the play, and Purdy threw it behind Hasty for 6 yards. Incompletion. Then Purdy hit Gray. Gray's best catch of the day. He was in tight coverage by Tariq Castro-Fields on the outside, was able to get two hands on the ball despite Tariq Castro-Fields hounding him, and then made the catch from Brock Purdy. Great catch by Danny Gray for 12 yards. Lance came in and threw his worst pass of the day. It was an interception right to Fred Warner. Lance threw a similar interception on Thursday to Jimmy Ward. He just did not see the middle of the field, tried to throw a ball to the receiver, was behind the receiver, and straight to the defender. Today, the defender was Fred Warner. It was right to him. Poor throw by Lance. However, I think it's mainly a timing issue right now. Both the balls were behind the receivers. We'll see how that improves when pads come on. So far, Lance had a phenomenal day. This was the one kind of error that Lance had, this interception. Then Lance rebounded very well. To end practice, there was one throw left. Lance hit Brandon Ayuk on a nice 20-yard route. Brandon Ayuk was on the right sideline coming in. Dante Johnson had inside leverage. Lance hit Brandon Ayuk on the outside shoulder. Brandon Ayuk made a nice catch, and practice was over. Overall, here are the stats. Lance threw 8 for 15, had one interception and 2 drop passes. Nate Sudfeld threw 7 for 13, had 3 interceptions, and Brock Purdy, I believe, I don't have his total number on me, but I believe, no, it was 5 for 7. So those are the 3 quarterback stats. Take that as you will. And now let me get into the positional groups. Starting off with quarterback. Lance looked really good today. I'll be honest. Lance looked the best he's looked in all of the practices so far. So when we talk about Trey Lance, right, the first day he threw 9 of 11, but it was mainly only short passes, not much of an install on Wednesday. Thursday, he struggled a little bit, right? He was, I forget the exact, I think it was 6 of 14 is what I had him at on Thursday. And then yesterday, he was 3 of 10. So 2 kind of weaker days from Trey Lance, inaccurate days. But again, I provided context of how Lance had multiple throws on those days where it was just turning completions based on good plays by the defense, or the receiver just couldn't hold it down. So it's not necessarily always Lance's fault. And today, despite his 8 of 15 completion percentage, he had a good day. Amazing throws to Brandon Ayuk. There were 2 or 3 of them. And then also, he had 2 drops that were not his fault on accurate throws. So overall, Lance could have been 10 of 15 today. Did throw the interception. It was an unfortunate one, not a great one. But Lance so far looking good heading into the padded practices for training camp. One other thing, Lance does not look like he has arm fatigue at all. I know the arm fatigue, not many people believed it, but Lance does not look like he has it at all. He's been throwing perfectly for all 4 days. He's been throwing consistently, and he's been getting a lot of reps as well. So that is it on Trey Lance. He's looking pretty solid going into training camp, the padded practices of training camp. So be on the lookout for any more updates on Trey Lance. Now, obviously, I think this offense will get better when Tebow Samuel returns. I'll get to how this offense got better when I talk about the offensive line today. Nate Sudfeld, the worst day that he's had so far for sure. Nate Sudfeld threw 3 interceptions today, a couple of questionable throws, a couple of throws into double coverage as well, and he really tried to test his arm strength today. So I applaud Nate Sudfeld for that. Rather than throwing the below 10-yard passes for the majority of practice, Nate Sudfeld tried to air it out. Threw a number of 20-plus yard passes today. It's just he didn't have success on him, and that's just because he doesn't necessarily have that type of accuracy compared to other quarterbacks like Lance potentially. So Nate Sudfeld, not a great day today, but he at least tried to throw the ball down the field. I'll give him a positive for that. It's just he didn't throw it accurately, really. So I wonder, how does Nate Sudfeld relegate in the second half of practice today after the two interceptions early? Nate Sudfeld went, I believe, 5 of 6, the one incompletion being an interception, but it was also a range of short passes as compared to the long passes Nate Sudfeld threw in the first practice. So that's important to note. Sudfeld did calm it down in the second half of practice, but if he's able and willing to throw those deep passes, that might be helpful for the 49ers from a backup because they don't necessarily have to change their offense as much with Sudfeld as the backup. Talking about Brock Purdy, 5 of 7 from the initial look. You might think he looked fine, but Brock Purdy, a majority of his completions were short passes. And then the two deeper ones that he threw, a 25-yard play to Jordan Matthews and a 13-yard play to Ray McLeod, the ball was just in the air for a while. You could just tell that the arm strength is significantly diminished compared to Nate Sudfeld and Trey Lance. That's why I don't expect Brock Purdy to make this roster. However, one positive of Brock Purdy, his pocket presence. His pocket presence was pretty nice today on a couple of plays. He was able to understand that pressure was there and either move out of the way or throw the ball quicker. So it was a good day in that sense for Brock Purdy. However, his arm strength, though, still is a question mark, has been for a couple of days for me. That's why I think QB2 right now is just not a battle. Moving on to the wide receivers, some interesting note. Malik Turner, he was a wide receiver that the 49ers signed this offseason. Malik Turner has actually been getting some run. Malik Turner got some run with the first team offense today. You saw him at times being the other wide receiver opposite of Brandon Ayuk with the first team offense, with Trey Lance out there. Last year, we saw that be Travis Benjamin at times, and maybe Malik Turner might replicate a role like that if Danny Gray or if other guys aren't necessarily performing as well. Turner was with the first team offense on certain reps, as I said. On Thursday and on Wednesday, you sometimes saw Jawan Jennings take the outside role and then Ray McLeod be in the slot. But today, Jennings and McLeod got more action in the slot than previously. And Malik Turner and guys like that were on the outside for a couple more plays. That's an interesting note because the 49ers do not have a wide receiver number 6 right now. Malik Turner right now could be that guy. I think personally he's the favorite so far, just based off the veterans, because he's been returning kicks as well, and he's been on special teams as well. He has special teams action with Brian Schneider in the past. So that is something to note. Malik Turner right now, maybe his stock is trending up. He didn't necessarily have a big day offensively, but he was running reps with the ones. On other note for wide receiver Brandon Ayuk had his best day of training camp. He had a couple of pretty nice catches. That 50-yard bomb from Trey Lance, it was a phenomenal catch by Brandon Ayuk. On top of that, Brandon Ayuk had a nice 25-yard catch, and he ended practice with a really nice catch where he jumped in the air and made the catch. Ayuk is starting to blossom into this wide receiver one that the 49ers could get. And I'm not saying wide receiver one of this offense, but a true wide receiver one. I think the 49ers could have two wide receiver ones on this team come the end of the season. Earlier in training camp, Ayuk struggled to win against cornerbacks Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley. Today, he flipped the switch a little bit. I think he still has a little bit to go into beating them, but not many receivers beat them. And Ayuk had a couple of good routes today on those cornerbacks. I definitely noticed it, and I think Ayuk is a little more rejuvenated right now, and he's looking to build off this performance. Great day today from Brandon Ayuk. Was by far the most targeted receiver of any, and had multiple 15-plus yard catches, including that 50-yard bomb that I mentioned. Moving on to the tight ends, a name that hasn't necessarily popped up in the first couple of days that popped up today, tight end Tyler Kroft. Tyler Kroft did not see much action, and many believe that he might be primarily a run blocking tight end, which might not bode well for his future in San Francisco, given the presence of Charlie Warner, who was a surprise last year, blossoming into that tight end number 2. But Tyler Kroft had a couple of catches today, primarily targeted by Nate Sudfeld. But Tyler Kroft, He might be getting some receiver action here with the 49ers. He might be a reliable check down option and a reliable safety blanket for quarterbacks, which does operate well when you have a young quarterback in Trey Lance. Tyler Kroft's stock is going up. And there's one thing that I want to note when it comes to the 49ers safeties. Tyler Kroft is that guy right now who has that $25,000 guarantee. None of the other safeties on the bubble have any guaranteed money towards them. So the 49ers might be more inclined to keep Tyler Kroft as that third tight end right now. And I think right now the top two candidates have been him and Jordan Matthews after today's performances. So Matthews consistently getting nice catches, and Tyler Kroft showing out today. Good job by Tyler Kroft, and this tight end battle for tight end number 3 is about to be very interesting. But that leads me in a way to the most important kind of position for me today, and that is the offensive line. Trent Williams returned today. Mike McGlinchey returned today, and overall, the offensive line finally started to seem like it might be an actually all right offensive line. Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey's return did indicate a little bit of a change for the 49ers. It wasn't as much pressure as you saw in previous days, and I actually thought the interior even looked pretty good today. I understand that Kevin Givens got a sack on Spencer Burford. I understand that Javon Kinlaw got a pressure on Aaron Banks. But overall, when Daniel Brunskill was inserted into the first team, and he had a majority of first team reps, more on him in a minute, that starting five of McGlinchey, Burford, uh, Daniel Brunskill, Aaron Banks, and Trent Williams in the limited time that they played, I thought looked pretty good and gave the quarterback a little bit of time. One of the plays that I thought they gave the most time to Trey Lance was on his interception. I thought it was a fairly clean pocket. Great job by the offensive line, holding for at least 2.5 seconds. Lance just made a poor throw on that read, and that was one of his only poor throws of the day. Offensive line, I think, is trending up in pass protection, but more importantly, I thought the run game was as good as I've seen it in training camp. And again, this is no pads. You can't necessarily say take everything with a grain, like you can't necessarily take everything at face value, right? But the run game was seeing some action today. You saw some holes open up on the outside. On the left side, I saw Aaron Banks and Trent Williams blocking pretty well in the run game. And then as well over the middle, I saw one specific play where Trey Sermon was looking like he was going to run to the outside on the right, cut back in, and there was a hole there because Daniel Brunskill made a nice play in the run game. So far, I think this offensive line is looking good, and I think this run game might look even better than we might envision it currently because the offensive line struggles when pads come on Monday and when offensive linemen are given a little more of a chance against this star-studded defensive line. Now, before I translate to the defensive side, guys, I'm going to be taking all of your questions right now. So go ahead, drop your questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and put your question or answer all of your questions right now. MGJ asked, how is Leon O'Neal doing? This is a question I've seen a lot on Twitter over the last couple of days and on these live streams. Leon O'Neal right now is practicing with third team safeties. He was with Dante Johnson over the last couple of days, and now Dante Johnson is the starting nickel corner. At least he was today, the starting nickel corner for the 49ers. O'Neal right now is a long shot to make the roster. I think there are just four better players right now, and that is Tarvarius Moore, who had a showing today. That is George Odom, who the 49ers signed to a 3-year deal this offseason. That is Talanoa Hufanga and Jimmy Ward, the two starters. And I don't think they cover more than four safeties just because they've got a lot of versatile guys, potentially a Tariq Castro Fields and Dante Johnson at other positions, and they also have a ton of depth. So right now, O'Neal, he's doing all right. I wouldn't say he's doing spectacular. I wouldn't say he's a guy that's standing out to me right now, if we're being honest. But he is being coached up. You see a lot of coaches talking with O'Neal during team and positional drills, and so that might be a positive. O'Neal right now seems primed for a practice squad spot if he's able to make it. When is the joint practice with the Vikings? I believe the 49ers and Vikings play together in a preseason game. I forget if I think it's the second preseason game for the 49ers. And so the joint practices, I believe, will be in the week heading up to that preseason game. So it isn't for a while, and I believe it'll also be in Minnesota because that game is an away game. Zach says Aaron Banks, Trey Sermon, and Talanoa Hufanga season. I think these players have looked good. Hufanga obviously stood out over the first couple of days. Had the nice PBU, had the nice interception off Trey Lance yesterday, and then Aaron Banks. I just mentioned him today. I honestly think he's going to be a pretty solid run blocker, and he looked better than he's looked before next to Trent Williams. Although he did give up the one pressure to Javon Kinlaw. Trey Sermon, his cutting is looking good. I think he's best effective when he cuts to the inside as opposed to the outside. We'll see how he goes. The running back rotation has been very interesting. It's been continuously changing. In walkthroughs today, Trey Sermon was the number two. Davis Price was the number, or sorry, Wilson was three and Davis Price was four. But they interchanged these running backs a lot during the scrimmage portion. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top out of the running back group. MGJ asked, does Debo get kind of involved during team periods? No, he doesn't. Debo Samuel today was seeing a little conditioning, but he was primarily just seen standing on the sidelines. In the last couple of days, Debo Samuel has only conditioned, and then he's gone back inside the building, probably for a workout. He hasn't gotten involved at all yet. Barry Baller asks, is the defense playing mostly man or zone? It's a lot of man. Man coverage is the main thing that you're seeing, and primarily press man. What the 49ers normally do, or not normally, but what I've seen the 49ers do is they play one corner of the two on man coverage, the other corner a little more soft, and then you'll see them sometimes drop to a little when they blitz a lot more, which is an interesting thing because obviously when you blitz, you might want to cover the short routes, but they don't want to get burned deep. But overall, I think it's a lot more man. You're seeing a lot of two safety look, a lot of one safety look as well. I saw Jimmy Ward being there. You see guys like Talano Hufanga in the box as well. I even saw Tararius Moore in the box in a couple of plays today. So it's a bunch of different looks that the 49ers are experimenting because they blitzed a solid amount today on certain plays just to test out certain packages with the DB blitz, with the linebacker blitz, with the safety blitz as well. So they've got a couple of different blitz packages there, but they're playing primarily man coverage. Going to the rest of your questions. Got here late. Please give me Trey stats again. So here were the quarterback stats for today. Trey Lance finished the day 8 of 15, got an interception, but he did have two drops from receivers on two passes. One from Jeff Wilson Jr. in the flat, one from George Kittle on a 10-yard route or 10-yard kind of catch over the middle. What have I seen from Donovan West and Jason Poe? So Donovan West actually has not seen much action at all because Jake Brendel and Daniel Brunskill are the two starting centers, or not starting, two centers right now battling it out. Those two guys are getting the first and second team reps. And then there's Keaton Sutherland as well, who's gotten center reps. Keaton Sutherland has played a little bit of guard. So that kind of leaves Donovan West as a fourth stringer right now at center. He doesn't see too much action, and if he does, it's only a couple of snaps with the third team and Brock Purdy. But I haven't seen Donovan West too much. Jason Poe, on the other hand, has looked manhandled so far. He's a smaller offensive lineman so far. He's the smallest guy on the field, and it's very very visual when you see it in person. But Jason Poe has been rushed so far a lot. He did give up a couple of not a couple. He gave up a pressure and a sack on Thursday, gave up another sack today, I believe, to Robert Nkundiche. So right now, I just don't know if he has the strength right now to keep up with NFL level defensive linemen. However, we'll see as that goes because right now he's just being oversized, overpowered, and defensive linemen are able to beat him easily. He's been playing a lot of guard. He's playing right guard primarily because of the center battle. There's not much. There's just not enough room for him to get center snaps. But hasn't looked good so far. I don't think he'll make the 53-man roster, but he could be a practice squad stash. Who was calling plays for the 49ers offense? It was Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan was calling plays, and then Kyle Shanahan was kind of at the forefront. He's standing in the back while while the scrimmage is happening, like right behind the play. And then the 49ers do a lot of huddles before these plays, so you'll see a little bit of a break. I think Kyle Shanahan's the one relaying the plays in. You do see him talking a good amount out there. Amin the Dream asks, how does Zakel and Jordan Mason look so far? So Nick Zakel was the second team guard Zakel, I think, was playing at left guard. He had a little bit of snaps at right guard, but he was primarily playing second team left guard. But because sorry, I got my guys confused. Poe was playing second team left guard. Zakel was playing second team right guard. But because of the center battle, today Keaton Sutherland actually took second team right guard snaps. And Nick Zakel has been relegated to the third team right guard so far. So Zakel is being bumped a little bit down in the depth chart. Maybe the 49ers aren't as high on him for immediately as they are with other players, but he is right now a developmental piece probably for 23. But I do think that Zakel will make the roster as of now. As for Jordan Mason, he's looked like an NFL level like type of running back. He's been strong and physical. He didn't get much run today. He got a lot more run on Thursday when you saw him running the football. He got a lot more run. And I thought he looked strong and physical, had a nice 10-yard catch from Nate Sudfeld as well on Thursday. So he's, in my opinion, one of the running backs trending up, although he didn't see much action today. Bossman asked, how's Greenlaw looking? He's a beast. Drake Greenlaw has actually been looking fine. He is the guy who actually stays on in nickel packages. Aziz Al-Shire has been the linebacker so far every time that has been going off in favor of the slot cornerback. So Greenlaw might be the guy that the 49ers trust a little more right now, at least in those nickel packages. CJ Gray asked, it looks like Brunskill is center. Right now, Brunskill, in my opinion, probably is the favorite. Before today, I wouldn't have answered that way. I would have said that it was Jake Brendel because of the relationship with Trey Lance. But Daniel Brunskill took a majority of the first team reps today. Brendel started, but Brunskill finished the day off at center with the first team. And when you saw after practice, Daniel Brunskill and Trey Lance were working together on snapping. And so that might be a connection they're trying to build. The 49ers might just like Daniel Brunskill a little more, and he might be suited up to play center right now. Lance had a better day today. Yes, he did. He threw 8 for 15, like I said, two drop passes, so he could have been 10 for 15 with an interception. I thought he threw his best day of training camp so far. Had a couple of amazing throws, a 50-yard throw over Travarius Ward in front of Jimmy Ward to Brandon Ayuk on the sideline, who made a diving catch. Best throw of the day, but he had a couple of other nice throws as well in the deep and intermediate ranges of the field. He's been looking to stretch the field. Today found it with more success, a little more poised, although the interception was a little questionable, in my opinion. And continuing, MGJ asks, when do you think Deebo Samuel's contract will be done by? I'm hoping that it's done by this weekend because the 49ers start pads on Monday, and you do want Deebo Samuel out there to try and get as many reps with Lance as possible. That's the biggest question mark right now. How will those two fare when they're on the field? Will they have an immediate connection? Will that connection take a little bit to grow? Because, like I mentioned with Brandon Ayuk, it took him a couple of days to get acclimated and to kind of start consistently getting able to beat this first team defense, first team cornerbacks. And so to me, I wonder how long will Deebo Samuel take because you don't have that many practices. I mean, the regular season starts in about a month from now, a little over a month. So hopefully Deebo Samuel is back on the field in pads so that he can get back into it because I don't think he'll start immediately getting just right into the groove. I think you have to take a couple of days for conditioning to get back into football shape, and then Deebo Samuel gets out there. Let's continue on. Bossman asks, in your opinion, what's our weakest spot, I'd assume, on the team? This is a tough question right now. I don't know if there's necessarily a super weak spot. The offensive line is a place where you could potentially mention. Maybe right guard right now might be the weakest position on the offensive line. But Spencer Burford is still an athletic freak, and he's a guy to be optimistic about. He gave up a sack today, but I think maybe with competition with Jalen Moore potentially, I think that that might be a spot where you just let the best guy win. And also, you're going to be next to Mike McGlinchey, who has proved himself to be competent, especially last year. And so, to me, I don't know necessarily if that's a spot. But another spot where there's competition and a battling is the slot corner spot. I was going to get to it in a little bit, but Dante Johnson took first team reps at slot corner today after Darquise Dennard has been taking it for the last 3 days. So that is an interesting point to note out. Dante Johnson might be the team's favorite right now at slot corner. He overtook Dennard in the depth chart. Who do you think makes the team between Jordan Mason and I'd assume Michael Hasty right now? Now, if I was going to say it, my personal preference would be Jordan Mason. I think he's the better physical runner, and I think he matches what the 49ers kind of want to do with their running backs this year, which is be more physical with Anthony Lynn, maybe implement a lot more inside run, and also have receiving backs because Anthony Lynn has had a propensity for developing those receiving backs. And so Jordan Mason might be one of those receiving backs. So I personally prefer Jordan Mason. However, it is important to note he's the last running back right now on the depth chart. I think Jeff Wilson Jr., who had a better day today after I was noting that he was on the downtrend, he had a better day today. I think Wilson Jr. and Jermichael Hasty have a better shot right now, but I would not be surprised at all if Mason continues to climb on the depth chart after being currently the running back number 6. Jake Turtle, I don't currently know what you're asking here. If you can reword your question, I'll be happy to answer it. But guys, that's all the questions you have right now. I'm going to continue on talking about the defense and what I saw from the defense today because there were some defensive guys to keep an eye out on. Let's start with the defensive line. Nick Bosa came back and just looked like Nick Bosa. 2 sacks. He had 2 sacks to start the second scrimmage session. One on a rollout by Lance, where Lance was just waiting to find an open receiver, sacked him there. And then on the second play, beat Mike McGlinchey for a sack when McGlinchey was trying to hold him. So really, it was a nice play by Nick Bosa there. 2 sacks there for Nick Bosa, who was a little limited today. Apparently, tweaked his foot towards the second half of practice and did not play in the very end in practice after the tweaking that foot. Another guy to mention, Kevin Givens. He got a sack on Spencer Burford, like I mentioned. He's a guy who's been getting consistent first team reps with this 49ers defense with Arik Armstead out and alongside Javon Kinlaw. Kinlaw also did look good. He is another guy in his first kind of day in team drills and his first day in scrimmage. Kinlaw did look good. He was the starter, had a pressure, and while he didn't play too much, it's a nice step for Javon Kinlaw so far. So that's kind of a nice team for the defensive line. But the biggest surprise of it all, and really it's just not today. It's over the last couple of days. Robert Nikomdiche. Robert Nikomdiche might be able to make this roster. At first, people thought, oh, training camp body, myself included. But with the injuries that have going on, with Mo Hurst now probably being out for the season, with Arik Armstead going down, Nikomdiche has taken the best of his opportunity. He's beaten Jason Poen a couple of times. He's had a couple of nice interior rushes. He had 1.5 sacks on Thursday. He had another sack today. He's been looking pretty good, and I right now would expect him to make the roster as one of the 10 or 11 defensive linemen, or at least be on the verge of making the roster on the bubble, if that's not the case. Nikomdiche is a name that you guys should definitely keep in mind. And the last piece of news for the defensive line, Kerry Hyder. Kerry Hyder is a guy who I haven't necessarily been that vocal on making the 53-man roster, but Hyder has been getting some reps. You saw him sometimes being the backup defensive end behind Charles Omenihu and Nick Bosa today, and he was seeing some time with the second team defense, and maybe like even a little bit across Nick Bosa as well. So that there itself, I think that Kerry Hyder might be making a little more noise than people expected. I still don't know if he'll make the roster or not. I think that right now, Kerry Hyder just isn't one of the more talented players on that 49ers defensive line. But I wouldn't be surprised at this moment if he did, just based on the amount of reps that he's getting right now. Is he translating those reps into something? Not necessarily. So we'll see if the depth chart changes. But it's important to note where Kerry Hyder is right now on the rotation. Let's move on to the linebackers for the 49ers. The linebackers, obviously, the 49ers have one of the better linebacker trios in Greenlaw, Alshire, and Fred Warner. I want to talk elsewhere, though. I want to talk with the backups. My number one guy right now, Marcelino McCrary Ball, UDFA out of Indiana. He looked good today. He was moving good laterally in the run game, had a couple of stops, one of the jet sweep by Danny Gray, another speedster. He was keeping he was keeping like step in step with him as Danny Gray was moving horizontally. He was moving pretty well laterally as well. So that's a guy who I think is a potential sleeper right now. I don't think he makes the roster necessarily right now just because of the amount of talented linebackers on in this group. I've already spoke earlier this week about Curtis Robinson, who I think is my sleeper to make the roster. But McCrary Ball is looking good and could be a nice practice squad candidate should he not be claimed. Additionally, there was a nice rep where he was matched up against Tyrone Davis Price in the in the receiving game, and he was step in step with Davis Price. Some nice coverage there. He's a safety linebacker type of hybrid player. I am very, very happy with what I've seen from Marcelino McCrary Ball so far. Talking about some of the other players, let's move on to the secondary. The secondary so far has been the best unit for the 49ers in the entirety of the team. You talk about Charvarius Ward, who's had two phenomenal days on Wednesday and Thursday. Emmanuel Mosley has just been consistently blocking receivers down. That was the case today as well. Ward had another interception, had an interception, I believe, on Thursday as well, had another one today. Great play by Charvarius Ward, intercepting a pass that was intended for Ray McLeod. And then Emmanuel Mosley had another PBU today. So really some nice plays by the secondary. And while Ward did give up that 50-yard catch to Brandon Ayuk, he would step in coverage. I thought that Ward had a very Ward's coverage was pretty nice today. Even if catches were made, I thought it was pretty nice, and I'm not worried at all. I think this is one of the better secondaries in the NFL. But the main name of the day, Tarvarius Moore, 2 interceptions today. I have been sleeping a little bit on his name. I have potentially floated out that he could potentially miss this roster if another guy popped up, or if the 49ers wanted to keep a player at a different position, potentially like a Dante Johnson, because he doesn't have more, that is, doesn't have any guaranteed money. But Tarvarius Moore is looking like safety number 4 for the 49ers right now. He's looking good. And safety number 3, obviously, he's a part with George Odom in that second team. 2 interceptions today. The first one was off a batted ball. George Odom, his counterpart, actually broke the pass up. It was a poor throw from Nate Sudfeld, who was eyeing Brandon Ayuk the entire way. Odom broke it up, and Moore caught the batted ball. The second one was a throw in the direction of Danny Gray by Nate Sudfeld. Moore made a nice play, made a nice catch. 2 interceptions on the day for Tarvarius Moore, who's moving pretty well, coming off a torn ACL, and I think right now is in position to make this roster. So a good job there by Tarvarius Moore today. I think that he is a guy who is I think he could compete potentially. I know some people want him to compete to start. I think Hufanga has that role, but the 49ers did deploy 3 safety sets last year, a good amount. I think Tarvarius Moore, especially with the speed and his ability to potentially guard over the top, might be that guy. And he's also versatile. You saw him spend some time today in the box. If he can improve his tackling, improve his angles, that's the main thing with Tarvarius Moore. He might be a guy the 49ers have their eye on this year. But the last name I want to mention, or last 2. First, I'll talk about Diamador Lenore. Pleasant surprise this offseason. Diamador Lenore has been that guy so far. Diamador Lenore, when you look at it, Diamador Lenore, he was a guy who was slept on this offseason. Some people doubted that he might make this roster, just given the depth of the cornerbacks, and that's not necessarily a bad take, right? But Diamador Lenore, 2 days in, he's been a nice press corner for the 49ers. He hasn't played on the inside like many suspected, and he also hasn't played off despite his lack of true speed. But Diamador Lenore has been playing press coverage, and he's been playing press coverage well. So shout out to Diamador Lenore. He had a nice play today. He was in coverage on the second Tarvarius Moore interception. That was a great play by Diamador Lenore, keeping step in step with Danny Gray on the Nate Sudfeld underthrow. So good job by Diamador Lenore there. I think he's a guy who now makes this 49ers roster as one of the 6 quarterbacks. They like to keep their investment. 5th-round pick last year, flashing a bit in training camp so far. I think Diamador Lenore has signaled that he's going to make this roster so far. And then let's talk about his counterpart, the second-team guy, Ambry Thomas. Now, this might be a hot take, but right now Diamador Lenore is playing better than Ambry Thomas. But I want to give some optimism towards Ambry Thomas, who had a better day than potentially in days past. Thomas has been playing a lot of soft coverage. The 49ers haven't really trusted him, maybe because they are afraid of him covering the deep ball and afraid of his probably issues maybe at the catch point, right? But today, the 49ers finally threw Ambry Thomas in the fire. After the first period where Ambry Thomas gave up a catch because he was playing soft coverage, because that was the case, the 49ers said, go ahead, play man coverage, play press man coverage. And Thomas had his ups and downs. He's working through these growing pains in these first couple of reps. In his first rep over there playing press coverage, he held Malik Turner a couple of times. Malik Turner was running pretty much a streak, pretty much a go route, and Thomas tried to keep up, had a poor first step, and then held Malik Turner the rest of the way. That was one of the Thomas's issues. He was a bit handsy, but then on the next rep, what did Thomas do? He had a beautiful rep. Danny Gray was the guy. He was running a comeback route. Thomas kept step in step with Danny Gray as Danny Gray bursted. Great first step there. And then as Danny Gray came back on the comeback route, Thomas took the route away, forcing Nate Sudfeld to scramble because Danny Gray was the guy he was looking at. So great rep there by Thomas. I think he's having his ups and downs, but I think the 49ers really need to throw him in the fire, need to put him at press man corner and see how he can do because he has that top speed. He has better speed than Deommodore Lenoir overall, and he needs to work through his catch point issues. He had an interception, obviously, last year, but he needs to work through those issues, and you got to place him in the fire. So to me, I think you got to keep Thomas as a press man corner, have both him and Lenoir play press man, or maybe even have Lenoir play a little off. But right now, Lenoir's playing press man. It's working. So I want Thomas to also play press man and for them two to be a strong duo as the backups for the 49ers in 2022. But guys, that's pretty much it for me today. Jimmy Ward. Oh, actually, how could I go without talking about Jimmy Ward? I gotta talk about Jimmy Ward real quick because he had a hell of a play today. Jimmy Ward, obviously the eraser on the defense, that Mr. All Pro over there. But Jimmy Ward, when he talked, when he one play today, Trey Lance hit Jeff Wilson Jr. While facing pressure in the check down, or sorry, in the flat. A nice throw by Trey Lance, accurate throw. Jeff Wilson Jr., though, he bobbled the throw, tried to get it, and right as he came, Jimmy Ward just landed the boom, just straight into him, obviously without pads, so it's not like a huge hit, not a helmet-to-helmet hit or anything, but Jimmy Ward did Jimmy Ward things. Definitely shook Jeff Wilson Jr. a little bit, and it was an incompletion. Great play by Jimmy Ward. He obviously erased an completion there that should have been caught, and I want to see what Jimmy Ward does this season, because he's doing everything for the 49ers. He's playing coverage, he's playing over the top, he's able to make plays near the line of scrimmage, he can play in the box, and he can play in the slot. Jimmy Ward season, it's officially on. But guys, that's it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be live. I'm hosting another Twitter space today, 3 p.m. So be sure to that you check that out. Or sorry, 3:15 p.m. I believe, 3:30 p.m. somewhere around there. I'm going to host it. Definitely come through, ask your questions if you couldn't today, and be sure to follow me on Twitter. That's where a lot of the information is. Right before I go, I'm going to read through some of these chats. Kelch Chronicle says I hit 300. Oh, I hit 300. Thank you guys so much for that. 49ers Web Zone is where I write, like Kelch Chronicles puts here. I put a bunch of content out there. The 11 on 11's full breakdown. So if you missed that earlier today when I was talking about it on stream, be sure to read the 11 on 11 breakdown article that I'll put out later today. But thank you guys so much for your kind words and really for your support. It's a huge reason of why I do this. I really enjoy talking 49ers. I really enjoy watching training camp. So thank you all for just being here with me and appreciating the work that I put out here. Alan, too, he says that he discovered it through John Chapman. John's the guy. Thank you, Alan, for your words. Shylock here has a question. What's the official power ranking of the 49ers? Well, I'm not official. I don't know what official is, but I'd say the 49ers are a top 10, top 8 team right now. And remember, power ranking is pretty much just how are they on paper. I think the 49ers have a strong roster. And if Trey Lance can really push the 49ers over the top, they're Super Bowl contenders in 2022. So to me, they're a top 10 team right now for sure, despite outlets saying that they don't have a top 15 roster, top 17 roster, whatever it may be. I think they're a top 10 team right now, and I think they are a top 4 team in the NFC West. I mean, the dream, thank you for your congratulations. Emiliano says, wasn't more of a ball hawk in college. Maybe now that he's healthy, he's finding his old ways a little more to speak. I think he's a better coverage guy than a run defending guy. That has been his main issue. Because at the safety position opposite of Ward, you hope that the angles aren't as bad. The coverage can also keep up a little bit. But Moore, he seems to be rejuvenated. He seems to be the guy right now that is playing alongside George Odom, playing as that fourth safety, and he seems to have that speed. So far, Moore's looking pretty solid. Today was the first day he really flashed, and we'll see if he can bounce off today's performance. Shout out to Mariah. Thank you for your kind words as well, sis. Thank you so much. Celts Chronicle asks, who's the least likely to make the team that you think can make it? Uh, Oh, who is the least likely? So essentially, who are kind of my sleepers, I'd say, potentially to make the team. The least likely, I'd say, Curtis Robinson. I think Curtis Robinson's got a shot potentially to make this roster. He is currently the sixth linebacker, but he's the Mike. He's the Mike, meaning the middle linebacker of that second unit. He's the guy who's been the most vocal, talking with Demetrius Flynn, Fowles, and Oren Burks. I think he's been looking pretty good. Him and Marceline McCurry Ball right now are my pleasant surprises with that linebacker group. Defensively, on the defensive line is Robert Nikomdiche. I think that while he originally was a camp body, I think he honestly has a good shot to make the 53-man roster overall. Maybe not initially, but once cuts are finalized and once players are back on the 53-man roster, I think Nikomdiche might make it right now, just based on how the injuries have gone so far. Offensively, wide receiver is an interesting position. While Malik Turner did get runs with the ones, I did say he didn't have too much offensive action. So I think that sixth receiver spot is still up in the air. But tight end was Jordan Matthews. I think Jordan Matthews right now has had a strong start to camp. I think that he could be an interesting candidate, especially because he's a year into the system as well, as opposed to guys like Tyler Croft and Troy Fumagalli and Tanner Hudson also is a year in. So really, I think that Jordan Matthews potentially could make this roster, at least fight for that tight end number 3 spot as camp progresses. George Kittle talked about it. It's going to be a battle. He likes when competition happens, and I think Matthews has looked good so far. So those are a couple of the names. A couple of the other names I did mention earlier in the stream, but thank you for the question. Shout out to No Border Sports and Kali. Thank you both for your congratulations. And then to wrap up today's stream, we've got a question from Niners Warriors. How many plays do you think Trey was not under pressure today? The receivers were not covered today. Twitter media makes it seem like he never had an easy play. I don't think that's true. On the catches that the receivers had, they were pretty. I mean, I thought the receivers were fairly open. He did get sacked a couple of times. I think he probably got sacked 3, maybe 4 times today, 4 or 5. But again, some of them are just like coverage sacks in a way where the coverage was there. But there were probably, let me count right now. There were around 40 to 45 total plays today. And I'd say maybe half of them were at least half of them were pretty good. I don't think it's that he never had an easy play. I don't think that that's true. I think really there's so much right in one play. It's not like it's an open formula, right? An easy play, how do you dictate that? Do you mean like Trey Lance can probably make a check down every single play. It's just he's choosing to try and stretch the field. Remember, the 49ers are in day 3 of their install. They're not necessarily looking to have refined offense right now. They're just trying to see what works. So you're seeing a lot more plays that might not necessarily happen over the course of a game. It's just they're attempting a couple of plays a lot more. You're seeing a lot more deep throws than you might see in a regular game when Kyle Shanahan might want to run the ball a lot more. You're seeing a lot more like throws where quarterbacks might not make those throws. Nate Sudfeld threw a couple into traffic today. Probably doesn't make those throws. Probably just checks it down instead, like he did over the second half of practice. But players are just trying things out right now. That's why I'm not too worried. I want to just wait till pads come on. I want to wait till real football, in a way, with pads is here, and then we'll start to truly continue to analyze. But so far, like I said today, overall message of the day: Trey Lance, strongest day so far. I don't think that there's a reason to freak out by any of the performances today. Don't overstate it. Don't think, oh, it was phenomenal. Trey Lance is the next coming of Joe Montana or whatever. But you shouldn't I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't do that with you guys, but I'm going to say it how I see it. I think Trey Lance looked good today. I thought the receivers at some points let him down, hence the 2 drops. but I thought Trey Lance did miss a couple of throws. He's still working through accuracy issues, and I thought just the accuracy was a little better today than it had been over the previous 2 days. So training camp's on an uptrend. I think alongside Trey Lance, a reason that Trey Lance did better today is just because the people around him did better. Shanahan mentioned this in the press conference in the press conference that he had prior to training camp, as well as the interview with Tim Kawakami. He doesn't need Trey Lance to do so much in his rookie season. What does he need from Trey Lance? Instead, what he needs is just for the team around him to play well enough that Trey Lance can work through these growing pains. And today, I thought the team played well enough. Lance, like I said, is working through growing pains, but the rest of the team is also doing pretty well to where Lance itself can grow out of the shell and get more comfortable with certain throws with certain players, with certain offensive linemen, because the offensive linemen improved, the receivers, specifically Brandon Ayuk, improved, and overall Lance improved. Well, that's pretty much how the fourth day of training camp went. Week 1 is officially over. Thank you guys all so much for whoever was following my training camp coverage this week. I had a blast doing it. I will be back on Monday with training camp coverage, and I will probably be back tomorrow streaming. So be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit the like button, and drop any comments here in the comment section that you had. Drop any comments on Twitter to me, and be sure to send me a message if you have any questions. I always like responding to people. I always like interacting with fans. But thank you all so much. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.